Snowbirds aren't coming back. Hotel rooms are empty. Shops near the border are shuttered. But this isn't just about a few canceled vacations. Canada's quiet tourism boycott is gutting entire American towns. Places that once boomed with Canadian dollars are now facing a chilling economic storm they never expected. Some states are losing billions, while others are watching lifelines like ski resorts, golf courses, and beach towns shrink into ghost zones. Which state is bleeding the most? And could your local economy be next? Stay with us, because these are the 10 U.S. states being hit hardest by Canada's quiet retreat. Number 10. Hawaii. Paradise is losing its lifeline, and fast. Hawaii, the dream winter destination for thousands of Canadians, is seeing its snowbird season vanish. Bookings from Canadian tourists have dropped by 14% through mid-February 2025. That might not sound huge until you realize how much Hawaii relies on international visitors. Hotels in Maui are half full. Local tour guides are struggling to find clients, and rental condos that once booked up a year in advance now sit empty. Tourism makes up nearly a fifth of Hawaii's entire economy. When even one major market pulls back, a ripple turns into a wave. Now imagine that wave hitting small businesses, restaurants, and workers who count on Canadian dollars just to make ends meet. No warning, no backup plan. Can Hawaii survive if its sunniest customers never return? Because on the islands, when the planes stop coming, everything else starts to crack.
Number 9. Texas. Texas is one of the most popular states for Canadian visitors, and now it's also one of the hardest hit. The Lone Star State, with its Sun Belt cities and winter getaways, has quietly lost over $1.4 billion in tourism revenue just from Canadians staying away. That's not speculation. It's what the U.S. Travel Association projects if this trend continues. Fewer Canadian snowbirds means fewer hotel stays, fewer meals in local restaurants, and fewer dollars flowing into places like San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. Those ripple effects are already being felt by small businesses, seasonal workers, and entire counties that depend on international tourism to survive. Could this be the start of a larger collapse in southern tourism? Number 8. Maine. Maine's postcard-perfect coastlines, lobster shacks, and tree-lined highways might look as charming as ever, but beneath the surface, something's breaking. The state's economy is tightly linked with Canadian visitors, especially those who drive across the border. In 2025, that flow didn't just slow down, it plunged. Between February and April, Maine saw 166,000 fewer crossings from Canadians compared to the same period the year before, a stunning 26% drop. For a state that relies on cross-border tourism in spring and early summer, that's not just a red flag, it's a siren. Hotels in Bangor are reporting longer stretches of empty rooms, outlet malls are seeing fewer Quebec and New Brunswick license plates, and small towns built around Canadian day trippers are cutting staff, shortening hours, or closing early. It's not just tourism. Many Canadians come to Maine for healthcare, seasonal work, and cross-border shopping, all of which is vanishing. Border towns that were already on the edge are now slipping. If Canadian drivers stop coming, local gas stations, diners, and corner stores lose their best customers. Could things bounce back? Maybe, but only if travel sentiment improves, and that's a big if. Right now, tensions between the U.S. and Canada are making some Canadians hesitate to cross the border. Maine has always been friendly, familiar, and just close enough for a weekend getaway. But now the welcome signs are up and the parking lots are empty. How long can a state built on seasonal visitors survive when the season never really starts?
Number 7. Washington. At first glance, everything in Washington state seems normal. Cars on the highways, ferries out on the water, and coffee shops buzzing. But look at the border towns and the cracks are obvious. Washington is facing a quiet crisis, starting with fewer Canadians showing up. For decades, British Columbians poured into Washington for day trips, shopping, gas, Seahawks games, or just a cheaper night out. But over the 2025 Family Day weekend, 3 of the main border crossings told a different story. Peace Arch was down 45%, Pacific Highway down 34%, and Sumas down 11%. These aren't just numbers, they're empty hotel rooms, silent checkout counters, and canceled dinner reservations. Small cities like Blaine, Linden, and Bellingham are especially hard hit. Canadian dollars have powered their local economies for years. When a third of your border traffic disappears in a single weekend, how do you keep the lights on? Retailers along I-5 are seeing steep drops in weekend sales, and gas stations near the border are losing hundreds of customers every week. Even tourism businesses near Mount Baker are selling fewer ski passes and seeing fewer winter snowbird rentals. Some call it a temporary slump, others see a real pattern and a warning. Washington has always been a top Canadian destination, but with this boycott and shifting sentiment, it's no longer certain that Canadians will come back. If the numbers keep falling, could northern Washington towns go from bustling to boarded up?
Number 6. Michigan. Stand on the Ambassador Bridge and you'll see it, a lifeline of Canadian traffic that's thinning out by the day. Michigan isn't just a neighbor to Canada, it's a gateway and a magnet. But lately, it's losing its grip. Visits from Canadians, once a steady boost to cities like Detroit, Port Huron, and Sault Ste. Marie, have dropped sharply in 2025. Between January and April, Michigan saw a 19% decline in Canadian travelers. That's tens of thousands fewer shoppers, casino guests, and overnight visitors. Downtown Detroit hoteliers, bartenders, and shop owners all say the same thing. We used to count on Windsor folks every weekend. Now it's quiet. Casinos in Detroit are really feeling it. Canadians once made up nearly 20% of gaming revenue, but now border delays, economic worries, and tense U.S.-Canada relations have cut those numbers. In Port Huron, empty parking spots and fewer Ontario license plates are becoming the norm. Outlet malls that once bustled with Canadian bargain hunters are scaling back weekend staff. This isn't just a border town issue. Canadian money has long reached deep into Michigan's economy, from auto parts to joint tourism on the Great Lakes. If this continues, Michigan could lose much more than just weekend traffic. It could lose the backbone of its international economic connection.
Number 5. Arizona. Golf courses are green and the skies are clear, but listen closely in Arizona's Sunbelt towns and you'll hear the silence. Thousands of Canadian snowbirds used to flood Phoenix, Mesa, and Yuma each winter, turning quiet suburbs into busy mini-cities. Now, RV parks have vacancies, condo rentals sit empty, and local businesses are starting to worry. In 2025, Canadian travel to Arizona dropped by 22% during peak season. Tens of thousands of missing visitors and millions of dollars not spent. Restaurants in Tucson that once catered to Canadians are cutting staff. Golf resorts near Scottsdale are slashing prices. Even car dealerships and healthcare clinics, industries that snowbirds fuel in the off-season, are reporting noticeable slowdowns. Canadians made up one of Arizona's most stable tourism markets. Unlike spring breakers, snowbirds stayed longer, spent more, and supported communities for months at a time. Losing them isn't just a dip, it's a structural hit to the state's economy. Why are they staying away? Rising political tensions, higher prices, border delays, and stricter entry rules all play a part. The impact is real and growing. In places like Yuma, where Canadians used to make up more than 30% of winter tourism, revenue drops are obvious. Fewer maple leaf flags, fewer Ontario plates, and fewer familiar faces asking for the usual. So what happens when Arizona's most reliable visitors simply stop coming? Number 4. New York. The border may look fine and the skyline may still shine, but head north toward Buffalo, Niagara Falls, or Plattsburgh, and the cracks appear. New York isn't just a global hub, it's also one of Canada's favorite U.S. playgrounds. But that relationship is breaking down fast. In early 2025, Canadian visits to New York fell 25% year-over-year, with Western New York hit hardest. That means fewer cars crossing the Peace Bridge, fewer shoppers at outlet malls, and fewer families booking weekend getaways. For cities like Buffalo, this is more than a tourism dip. It's a warning. Canadians once fueled a steady stream of revenue, day trips, sporting events, even medical visits. Now,
The foot traffic is down and businesses are feeling it. The Walden Galleria Mall on a Saturday isn't what it used to be. Gift shops near Niagara Falls report revenue drops of 15 to 30%. Even hotels near the border are seeing bookings shrink, especially from Ontario. The ripple reaches deeper. Rochester, which once marketed itself as Montreal's U.S. airport, is struggling to fill flights. Canadian flyers once made up more than half the passenger traffic, but now those seats are empty. For regions built on cross-border travel, a boycott doesn't just dent revenue, it alters the economy. From Rochester to the Thousand Islands, towns once reliant on Canadian cash are facing a new reality. The dependable neighbor is staying home.
Number 3, Nevada. Bright lights, endless slot machines, and streets once packed with tourists, but lately there's a strange calm. Nevada, especially Las Vegas, used to be a magnet for Canadians. Canadians made up one of the most reliable international groups visiting the state. Now, they're vanishing. In 2025, Canadian tourism to Nevada dropped by 28% in just the first 4 months of the year. It's not just flights or hotel bookings. Casino floors are quieter, show seats are empty, and the ripple effects are growing. Resort staff on the Strip whisper that they used to see waves of Canadians. Now they're just hoping they return. In places like Laughlin and Reno, where winter visitors from Canada once boosted the off-season economy, things are worse. RV parks are reporting cancellations, and seasonal rentals are staying vacant. The pullback is due to high exchange rates, growing political tensions, and more Canadians choosing to vacation within Canada. Nevada depends on Canadians. In Las Vegas alone, nearly 1 in 10 international visitors were Canadian before 2020. And they weren't just tourists, they were repeat, high-spending guests. Without them, many resorts' financial models become shaky, especially as American visitors also cut back due to inflation. Even smaller industries, wedding chapels, helicopter tours, luxury shopping are scrambling to make up the gap. And this isn't just a bad season. It's a shift that could force cities like Las Vegas to reinvent their visitor strategies if they want to survive. Number 2, California. Palm trees, Pacific sunsets, and Hollywood glitz. But Canada's fading interest could cost California billions. The state was once the crown jewel of Canadian tourism, with families flocking from Vancouver and Toronto all year, Disneyland in winter, wine country in spring, Pacific beaches all summer. In 2025, though, the tide shifted fast. Canadian arrivals are down 21% statewide, and the hit is even deeper in places like San Diego and Santa Barbara. Local tour operators, hotel managers, and airport authorities all report the same thing: fewer bookings, shorter stays, and lower spending. Canadians aren't casual travelers in California. They're premium spenders who rent cars, book guided tours, and dine in upscale restaurants. Now they're pulling back. In Los Angeles, high-end shopping districts like Rodeo Drive are seeing clear dips in foreign foot traffic. Napa Valley wineries are scaling back tastings, and even ski resorts near Lake Tahoe report softer bookings from Alberta and BC. The reasons? Currency woes, diplomatic tensions, and rising travel costs. The result is easy to see. California's massive tourism economy starts to unravel, quietly but quickly, when even one key market pulls out. Number 1, Florida. Sunshine, beaches, theme parks. Yet Florida may be the biggest casualty of Canada's tourism slowdown. No other U.S. state has bet so heavily on Canadians showing up every year. From Fort Lauderdale to Sarasota, Orlando to Naples, Canadian tourists have been the lifeblood of Florida's winter economy. Canada has sent more visitors to Florida than any other foreign country, contributing over $4 billion a year, or at least they used to. In 2025, Canadian arrivals are down nearly 25% from pre-pandemic levels, and unlike other markets, they haven't bounced back. The ripple effect is everywhere. Gulf Coast condos sit vacant during high season. RV parks and golf courses report record-low bookings, and even Orlando's iconic attractions are seeing not just fewer visitors, but smaller average spending per trip. Local restaurants, rental agencies, and beachside motels built for the snowbird rush are tightening budgets or closing down. Some of this is economic. A weak Canadian dollar and rising U.S. prices make Florida vacations tough to justify. But deeper forces are at work. Changing travel trends, younger generations choosing Europe or Asia, and more retirees staying home. For some Florida towns, especially those dependent on seasonal Canadian traffic, a loss is more than just financial, it's cultural. Communities from real estate agents to ice cream shops were built around one idea, that Canada always comes back. But what if they don't? Because this isn't just a bad season, it's a wake-up call. Florida, once the darling of international tourism, is now learning what happens when your most loyal guests stop knocking. This list isn't just about numbers, it's a warning. When international ties break down, the fallout hits local businesses, families, and entire economies. From Florida's fragile coasts to Hawaii's remote paradise, the ripple effects of Canada's tourism retreat are very real and growing. If your state made this list, it's time to ask tough questions about resilience, diversification, and what the future holds. If you found this eye-opening, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. It helps us keep digging, connecting the dots, and bringing you stories others overlook. Stay tuned, because the next trend could hit even closer to home.